All right, part three of six of our trade guide videos that we have on YouTube. You can find the annual trade guide for the Eastern Conference at ESPN.com, the Western Conference also on ESPN.com. This is the first year we're actually splitting the article up into two conferences here based on the amount of words that are on in this article, a total of 17,000 here. And you can find everything you want to know about each team in each article. An in-depth analysis on what to watch. We've got a front office meter as far as a trade meter of 1 to 10 on what likely to happen or not. Front office history, draft information, trades we'd like to see, front office history, cap information. Basically everything you need to know is in each article. And it's by a team basis with the Eastern Conference and then the Western Conference here. And you can find that on ESPN.com. So when you look at a team like Atlanta, we've got their trade meter at a 9, right? Big thing is going to be what happens with John Collins. He's in the second year of that $125 million contract, averaging the fewest points in his career, under 50%, right? 23% from 3. Is he kind of the sacrificial lamb in a team that has underachieved this year? They've played a little bit better of late. Can you break up that contract, maybe stay under the luxury tax, and maybe kind of balance out your roster a little bit? I think moving away from Collins basically leaves you without, if you don't bring him forward back, would leave you basically with Jalen Johnson, who's had a nice year in his second year from Duke here. Or is the other option that you look at smaller deals regarding Bogdanovic, who's got a player option for next year, Justin Holiday, or you do nothing, right? You kind of sit back, and we've talked about this with other teams. You reassess the roster in the offseason here. So that's a focus on Atlanta. And so for the trade we would like to see, John Collins to Toronto for Chris Boucher, Thaddeus Young, Kem Birch, and a protected top 10 first in 2024. That's kind of the mindset as far as breaking up Collins into 3 players, right? Boucher can play the 4 for you. He certainly can play the 5. That's how we look at this. We're not going to say, yeah, I'm going to trade John Collins to Brooklyn for Joe Harris and 2 first. And no, we focus in on basically kind of none of these outlandish trades that you're going to read about on some of these other news outlets here. So I think that's going to be in Landry Fields, who took over for Travis Schlenk. This is his first trade deadline, right? All eyes on you, Landry, as far as what you're going to do with this roster, because it's a playing team right now. So that is the Atlanta Hawks. As far as John Collins is going to be the main focus. Certainly the next team is going to be Charlotte. Trade meter is a 10. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, I know the Miles Bridges situation, and I know there's been injury here, but I think Vegas had odds on, like, I don't even know, what is it, 38 wins? And I was thinking, like, who in their mind is who's in charge out there? I mean, I had this team as a 20-win team this year, even if LaMelo Ball was healthy. I mean, this team, and I've written about it, and Charlotte fans were not happy, and I'm sure their front office. This team is a bunch of misfits, and now my big question is, they put a Band-Aid on this roster, and do they have the vision to kind of, go into a transition phase of retooling? What can Kelly Oubre, who's hurt, Mason Plumlee, Jalen McDaniels, maybe if you get a little bit of aggressive, PJ Washington, what do those players get you on the market? I think Oubre will be back sometime in mid-February here. You want to lose as many games as you want to get a top 3 pick. That's the goal. And I know we don't want to talk about losing, but let's face it, if you've got 35 games left here, you want to be in the top 3 when this thing ends. So McDaniels is interesting just because he's only 24, and he should technically fit your retooling process here, but he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's having a career year. They actually could have made him a restricted free agent if they declined his option and gave him a new contract last offseason, but I understand you basically wanted to go in a year and evaluate, but now you have the risk of losing him. So Plumlee's having a good year, a big that can help a team. Oubre, my question with Oubre is that coming off the bench, he's better as a starter, than coming off the bench, shooting 36%, 8 of 35 on threes games in 5 games off the bench. That is not good. What is the trade we'd like to see? How about McDaniels to the Lakers for Wenyen Gabriel in 3 seconds? You know, that's something like you replenish your draft assets, or maybe PJ Washington to Indiana for Chris Duarte and the 2023 first from Cleveland. Something like that. That's the mindset here, right? Like, try to get younger, right? Especially if the goal is if you're going to bring back Miles Bridges in the offseason. Kind of clear some money out off there. But that is Charlotte. But I have them as a 10 because I think I'd be stunned if they didn't make any moves. But Mitch Kupchak is not aggressive during the regular season. I think he's made 8. What is he? So you go in here and you can read about what these guys have done. Since taking over in 2018, he's made 8 trades, only 2 during the regular season. Last year, Montrezl Harrell. So we'll see. We'll see if they can, move some of these veterans on these expiring contracts. That is the Charlotte Hornets there. So next team we are going to pull up is, let's go Miami. Miami's interesting just because the Duncan Robinson contract doesn't have much value. He's hurt. I have him as on a trade meter as a 4. Continuity. I mean, they've been better with Gabe Vincent at the point guard. They're 4-0 instead of Kyle Lowry. There's so many guys in and out of this lineup here. 16-13 when Butler plays. 9-11 with Adebayo, Butler, and Hero. Hero's been hurt. He's having a good year. Adebayo's been great. Butler's been great when you can just keep him on the court. Miami's funky just because, like, when we do the Minnesota video, I talk a little bit about Kyle Lowry as far as, if you were Miami and they offered D'Angelo Russell for Lowry and Dwayne Dedmon, like, would you do that? And then that basically frees up money to go out to re-sign, Gabe Vincent, but stay under the luxury tax. Like, that's what I think you have to think about. But Kyle has, this is not Toronto Kyle. And I think he still has value, but how many games are you going to get out of him? You're basically getting 10 to 12 points a night. Defense has certainly slipped. You're about 190,000 below the luxury tax. So you basically, unless you're going to make another move, you're going to have to wait until the end of March to sign Orlando Robinson who's on a 2-way to a regular contract. You got maybe due out and get more size. Dedmon in your own first this year, top 14 protected for Jared Vanderbilt. That's kind of like what I'm thinking as far as from, Vanderbilt, you're going to hear a lot of out there. I'm thinking as far as it with the Miami Heat here, but you've got 9 players making between 9 and 1.8 million. Oladipo has veto power. You're not going to trade Udonis Haslem, so that's where you're looking at guys like Dwayne Dedmon as far as your likely odd man out. Orlando's a little bit interesting. Just Terrence Ross, really, that's kind of the guy. They're so young. They've had some really good moments this year, not so great moments, but I think they're kind of probably one step behind where Oklahoma City is right now. Roster sustainability, right? Jeff Weltman, their president, has talked about that at length here as far as not taking shortcuts here. So I would think for Orlando, you don't have to do anything, but if you're going to do something, see what the value of Terrence Ross. He's on an expiring $13.5 million contract. He's been okay. He's not going to net you a first, but can you get maybe maybe you get him a second, right? How about Ross to the Lakers for Patrick Beverley and the Bulls 2023 second? Something like that for me. If I'm in Orlando, that makes a little bit more sense. Finally, the Wizards. The Wizards are interesting because you've got the Kyle Kuzma situation. He's got a $13 million player option. He's already made it clear. He told Dave McMenamin that he's not going to sign an extension for 4 for $70. He believes he's outplayed it. He is correct. He has outplayed it. What do you do if you're Washington? Are you comfortable paying him $20 million north? Are you going to move off him? And what message does that send to Bradley Beal, who just signed that $251 million big monster contract with the goal that this team is going to be competitive. What happens if the Lakers come in and make an offer? I mean, Kuzma, if you're comfortable paying him 4 years, $90 million, then you don't have to do anything. You just kind of wait into the offseason and, you know, bring him back on a bigger contract. But if you're thinking, well, I got to do Porzingis. Fortunately for them, they haven't hit on some of their younger players like Rui Hachimura is not going to get a $19, $20 million guy. Like, they don't have a pipeline of like Josh Giddey, who was like, oh, we're going to have to pay him in a couple years. Or Franz Wagner, we're going to have to pay him. Like, they're younger players, and they could get there, are not there right now. Their Corey Kisperts of the world are not a $20 million guy 2 years from now, at least for right now. So you do have the flexibility with Kuzma, and I think Bradley Beal out down the road will be something we probably will need to address. My concern is him staying healthy and where he's going to be in years 3 to 5. And we could do another video on Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine and guys like that here. Rewarding players for what they've done in the past and not what the future holds. It bites you in the you-know-what every time. And I understand where the Wizards were basically kind of handcuffed, and signing trades were extremely difficult to do here. But eventually you're going to have to figure out moving forward when you get to year 2 and year 3 if that is going to be a depreciating asset. But for right now, you're going to have to figure out what happens with Kyle Kuzma. And I think Will Barton is another player. Certainly, a lot of DMPs for Will Barton. He's got an expiring $13.7 million contract. Can you get a second back in return for him? It doesn't look like you're going to re-sign him. Has barely cracked the rotation as of late here, but that is where the Wizards are as far as with, Kuzma is going to be the big one. So we've got Atlanta with John Collins. We've got Charlotte, basically everyone except probably LaMelo. We've got the Heat with Dedmon. We've got Orlando with Terrence Ross, and then certainly with the Wizards with Kuzma and Will Barton. So this is episode 3 of the trade guides videos. You can get the written portion, which is about 9,000 words, on the Eastern Conference on ESPN.com.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.